All right, welcome everyone. Chris Petri here. Again, we're making some beautiful occasional cards. I'm going to explain the process of how I do it. It'll be really fun. We'll do two cards. We'll do a beautiful iris flower, and we'll do an ocean second, a nice beautiful ocean seascape scene with sand. We're going to have sand dunes, beautiful ocean, sky washes. We're going to show you how to do both of these paintings, and we'll have our reference photo on camera at all times. So we'll have our flower and then our beach scene too as well. So we'll have everything here. We'll have the palette on camera. We're going to have our water container on camera, and we'll kind of show you how we can do everything with our basic brush that we have with our Prang Oval 16 set. So I always mention these are great sets, the Prang Oval 16 watercolor set for beginners, or if you just want to do a quick painting, like a quick occasional card like this, you can just basically open up your palette and take a spritzer bottle, spritz your paints really quick like that, and you're ready to paint. So you can make quick, efficient occasional cards. You can stockpile them, make a dozen or two of these, and then have them ready, and then you can always fill them out with whatever message you want to at a later time. It's up to you, but we'll talk all about that in the video, and we're going to have a fun time doing all of this together. So let's get ready. I'll reset up everything so we're ready to start to draw and tape off our cards and everything like that, and get our painting going just in a second or two. Alright, so we saw the finished two paintings, actually two occasional cards, and this is we're just going to get working here. So nothing too tremendously difficult with the setup here of my art supplies and things. I have the Prang Oval 16 set here. Incidentally, all my art supplies are down below in the comments section if you ever want to peruse through there, and you can kind of find all of these things will be in there, tape and scissors. Well, I don't know about scissors, but you know, most of the stuff anyway. The water container, the paint set, this paintbrush, beautiful paintbrush, comes with the set, the Prang Oval 16 set. This is what the cover of the set looks like, and then you can lift it off like that. And so we have our paints, spritzer bottle. These are kind of, you know, you can get these probably, you know, 5 and dimes stores, beauty stores, things like this. Online, of course, on Amazon. I think I have a link to these spritzer bottles too. Holbein makes them. This is a water container, a collapsible water container. These are nice. They have a handle on them. You can open them up and squeeze them down. So I have one of those. I also use the rubberized ones like this, which are really nice too. And I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, ruler. A ruler is helpful. You don't have to have a ruler really. Good tape. This is frog tape. And this is, you can get this at any big box store like Lowe's, Home Depot. You know, those are the two main big box stores. Cucumber Brothers is a local place in northern New Jersey. So if you live in northern New Jersey, you could probably go to a Cucumber Brothers lumber and hardware store and get probably tape like this, the painter's tape, or again, Lowe's, Home Depot, they would have it too. Paper, just a couple pieces of paper. So I'll move my water container over here. And scissors, of course, to trim our paper down. I used a couple, I had some pieces of paper left over, like from a larger sheet that I might have used. So this is still good. I save all of my paper, my watercolor paper, even smaller than this. I save all the pieces, you know, maybe if it's smaller than this, I might use it to try out some new paint colors and see what it looks like, make some color swatches. But this, you know, this is basically the size we'll use for occasional cards right now today. And this is roughly 5 inches by, let's see, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 5 inches by 8 inches. These two pieces like this. Okay, so we're going to use those, and we'll just work everything together. We're going to work at a quick pace. Occasional cards are something fun. You couldn't make it out to the store to get a card for someone, and you just want to make one, and you can make one really quickly and efficiently and make something really beautiful. And it's also very personal, right? If you give somebody, I noticed that over the years, I've always made like these type of cards, occasional cards, birthday, holidays, special occasions. I make these cards, and you know, everyone's so, you know, thrilled with them and so happy. They put them in frames sometimes, or they hang them up and stuff. So just a great thing to have in your arsenal as a watercolor artist. to be able to just put a few of these together, and they're simple, right? So I'll just take the first sheet of paper here, we'll leave that there, and what I'll do is, we said this is about 5" by 8", and the first thing I do is I just take it and I fold it over in half, like this. And then this becomes either a portrait style card, like this, or you can use it as a landscape style card, like this. So maybe if you're going to paint a landscape, a street scene, something like that, you'd use it in landscape. Maybe if you're going to paint some flowers or something like that, or maybe something where you want it to be in the portrait style, you would have it like this. Okay, I guess the first thing we'll do is let's do some iris. Let's create some irises on this one here. So we're going to do a quick flower occasional card. So I don't get too fancy, I use my tape like this, and I just will make the bottom portion of the card, the tape will be covering quite a bit of the bottom of the card, because that's where we can put our message on the bottom of the card. So we leave a little more tape coverage on the bottom of the card like that. Okay, and I'm not going to get too neat. I'm trying to move at a good pace here so we can just kind of get the idea and how we should move through this kind of quickly. We don't want to spend 5 hours on a card. Let's get it done quickly. And again, a lot of times we're making these quickly, right? A lot of times I make these last minute. I can't get out to the store, but most times I do go to the store and get a card. But this, I do these often too. And again, people just enjoy them and are thrilled by them. So these, the top and the two sides will be, you can kind of see I have it, the border is thinner. So you can kind of see the border there like so, and the border up top. That's maybe like a half an inch, and then this is like almost an inch. And the same thing over here, half an inch. Just want to keep the top and the two sides the same, approximately. Doesn't have to be perfect again. It probably looks good when it's a little bit, different, when there's a minor difference in the, if you want to, you can measure it. You can, use a pencil and a ruler and get more accurate with your cards if you want to take more time. You could actually make a lot of these ahead of time. I never thought of that until like maybe a year or two ago. Incidentally, I've been making these occasional card videos for a long time, so you can always go back and look at my archive videos. You just type in Chris Petri, occasional cards, or occasional card, and I probably have like 10 or 15 videos that I've created over the last 5 to 10 years where I create, what we're doing right here, the same exact thing, just different subject matter, of course, So, but these are always fun to do, and I really enjoy doing these videos, just kind of showing you the process. Some of you are new, and you're kind of learning this process, so, of doing something like this. So that's why I'm creating another video, just like this, and we have it about an inch down at the bottom, covering the paper, and then about a half inch around here, give or take, plus or minus, no big deal. You can make larger cards, obviously, as much as you want. You can make them larger, you can even make them smaller. That's fine too. Okay, so we got the main thing we had covered was getting the tape on there, folding the paper first, and then getting the tape on. That's really the key to the start of this. And then next, what we'll do is we're going to draw our flower. Now, you can always use different kinds of subject matter, magazines, other watercolor books. You can use pictures from the internet, from your computer, newspapers. You can use kind of like anything. Your subject matter is endless as a watercolor artist. But what I'll do is I will go to my photos on my phone, and I already have something ready to go. Okay, so we're going to use this. This is a really pretty iris there. And what I'll do is I'm going to contour draw this. First, I'll just maybe get the basics of it. Okay, so I would say the top of this iris flower is about a little bit higher than halfway on the page here, on this rectangle that we're working in here. So if I say I go a little bit up higher than halfway, that's about where we need to be. So I say about there. Okay, and it's a little bit over this way, the top, maybe. So I'll just erase that a little bit. So it's kind of favoring this side of the picture frame, maybe just a little bit, which looks good. All right, now what I'll do is just kind of do a super light sketch of this. And I'm not going to really, I just want to do it quickly so I can kind of make sure I just get it about somewhere where I think I... Okay, so I'm just going to do a few things. You can change it to a little bit if you think it's going to look better with maybe one less leaf form on there, or maybe we can move the leaf form around a little bit. You know, you can change things around a little bit. You're the artist. Remember, you always have liberties to change things around a little bit when you're creating your paintings and your artwork. So don't feel like you have to be locked into just doing something exactly like you see it. You can move things around, change things a little bit within reason, or as much as you want. Okay, now up here there's another flower, another iris flower, and another couple petals over here. I won't put that in. I'm going to leave that out. I'm just going to have this one flower here, and I think that'll be fine. And so I'll do that. All right, so I did it very lightly just so I could have a feel for where it's going to be in the picture frame here. And now that I have that, I'm going to go right in and start doing the contour drawing. So I start up here at the top of the flower. I come around like this, and I'm kind of going to just keep looking at I'm going to look at my picture, the photograph here on the... And I'm just going to follow all of the shapes and curves here as best I can. And then this here, the larger petal here comes around. Okay, that goes this way, like that. And maybe there's a small vein in the flower there. And I'm going to leave that, again, that petal out. I won't put that petal in there. I'll put this one over here. That looks good there. This one looks good there. And then again here. Go over there like that. And I'm going to get the stem. And then I will come over here. And when I do that first really light pencil drawing, or that preliminary sketch, if I see something differently, I just ignore that previous really light sketch I did, because that first light sketch was just to make sure I didn't go too far out of my picture frame here. So you can see the picture frame here. The reason we do that preliminary sketch, that really light pencil drawing first, just quickly, lightly, barely visible, is so that we kind of just, when we go in to do our accurate contour drawing, which we're doing right now, we already have like a roadmap set up for where we're working in, like the area that we're going to work in and where our subject matter is going to be. Because again, it's easy to like sometimes work where we start in one place and then we wind up going off the paper because we didn't have enough room. So that's the reasoning behind that preliminary sketch. Okay, so essentially this is good. I'm happy with this. And the next part is going to be the fun part. Let's paint. So what I'll do is I'll just take a quick break. I will take my spritzer bottle and just spritz the paint here, my paint supply. And this is what's great about this Prang Oval 16 set. If you're just starting in watercolor, and if it's your first time here, welcome. It's great to have you here working with us. Thanks for coming by. These Prang Oval 16 sets are perfect for if you're just starting out in watercolor. Because really all you have to do is just open it up, spritz it with a little bit of water like we just did, and then you can be painting like in 2 minutes. And then when you're done, you can just leave it. You don't have to necessarily do anything. You could just really set it to the side, and then the next time you want to paint, whether it's a day later or later in the evening or in a week from now or whenever it is, you just open your paint set back up again, spritz it with a little water, and you're ready to paint again. So that's for someone that's kind of newer. Again, if you're just starting out, this is the perfect set to get. And it comes with a brush too, a beautiful round brush, and you can see how nice that point is on the brush. So you can get some really fine details with the tip of that brush. And you know, you can do paintings this size or a little larger with this. Obviously, when you get to larger sheets of paper, you'll need to invest in maybe larger size brushes, because you'll need, you know, larger brushes for larger paintings. That's the basic rule of it. You know, if you have a larger sheet of paper, you need a larger brush. If you have a smaller sheet of paper, you can use smaller brushes like this size. Okay, all right, so we're going to start painting in just a second. We'll go over the whole painting process quickly as we're creating this card. And again, it's going to be a quick video. We won't take too long. I want everyone to kind of get the feel of a quicker pace. You're just going to get in, get your paper taped down, your drawing completed, and then get some paint on the paper and some nice looking washes, and that'll be it. Okay, and we'll be ready for some other we're going to do a little bit of printing or script on the front of our card, and then also when we open up the card we can put in our message inside the card. Okay, so I'll be right back and we'll start painting. Alright, we're just about to paint again, so I'll readjust my phone here a little bit. I'll take the water container, maybe we'll put that here, maybe a little bit of paper towel. So we'll have some paper towel here, water container, and that'll be the process of taking the brush, rinsing off the water, tapping it on the paper towel a little bit, and then working on our painting. So let's just start out right away with the flower. And so we're going to make a beautiful purple right away. I have a fantastic, beautiful purple right here in the palette. Actually, two purples right here and right here. And you can see how gorgeous they look. So these colors are phenomenal. And I can even go in and get a little bit of this, which is just to add a little bit of different color there. And then we're going to go with our greens too. We see plenty of greens in our background, but we're not going to make a big deal of the background at all. We'll actually keep the background of this flower very minimal. You'll see that as we go. So a little bit of green and yellow, this yellow here and this green, which is kind of like a very kind of a light green. This is a more of a cooler and darker green. We can have some of that too up there. And I think that's a good way to go. Keep the colors simple. Again, we're doing an absolutely fun iris here, so I'll just take my brush and I keep my hand on the paper, resting on the paper, and since I'm right-handed, I start on the left side of the painting and work this way across. And then if I'm left-handed, I'd start over here on the right side of the painting and work this way, across this way. This way I don't lean into the paint. And I'm a little crowded here on my workstation. I usually have things a little further away, but I wanted you to see how I'm using my watercolor brush and my water container. Okay, so you can go right into the palette with colors, so you can also go right into the colors like so. Rinse off the brush, tap a little bit of water off there, and then smooth this wash on out. It's a little bit lighter up here, so I'll leave that. Again, rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and maybe have that little bit of that lighter look on top of the flower petals. And then over here we have, again, that darker bit. Then over here, we'll come over here, we'll take the brush, and we'll use the brush. It has such a beautifully sculpted sharp point. We would spin it around like this and rest our hand on the paper and use that point to get the point of the flower there, the flower shape there. And then once we do that, we can do the same thing here too. Kind of get the vein of the flower like this, and then maybe put a little bit of damp water on there. Rinse off the brush, dry off the brush a little bit. So controlling the water on your brush is like a big part of this. You want to always use the paper towel, or you can use a sponge too, a small sponge. I have a small sponge. I sometimes use that. You can set that by your water container too as well. Whatever you have is fine. You can pick up a little bit of paint and do a couple little splashes just to have things look interesting. And I'm usually tapping on my phone to keep the painting up and running. I might have I just had a recent update with my phone, and when that happens, things tend to change on my phone. Usually my phone will not turn off like it's doing, because I usually have it set so that it stays on and lit up, for like 10 minutes or whatever it is. I think it changed somehow, I guess, when it did the reset. So one of those things with technology. So we're going to work on some of the stems and the stem portions of the flower. You can mix in your green colors as much as you like. You can add some gold and yellow like this. And I think that really looks good. And then maybe if we want to go with a little bit of a darker green, we could take some of that burnt umber and just make it a little darker over here on the left side. Like that. And that gives us that nice look, like light and shade. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water. Like this. And that looks fine. I think we can start to maybe put a little bit of background in, but I wouldn't do too much. I would maybe wet the paper with some water lightly. Take your brush, get some water on there, and kind of maybe do a little bit of just fresh, clean water on your paper around the flower, but not close to the flower. Take your water, your fresh, clean water, and just put it around the outer edges of where your tape is. And then don't go too close to the flower. That'll cause problems. So let's see. Let's do it that way. Okay. So now I've kind of added some water around the outer perimeter of the tape. And then we can go in and get some more of those greens. Splash some greens on there. Maybe some purples too. Yeah, you want to use the purples there too. So you kind of want to keep this a nice, simple color scheme, as we call it. A color scheme is nothing more than the colors that you've chosen to use in your painting. So some color schemes are more simple, where you don't have as many colors. Some color schemes you might have lots of colors. You might use 15 colors or something like that, or however many you want. But I think this is a good way to go. I'll take a little bit of this and go around maybe a little more green. Here I'd go around the flower shape a little bit there. So you can do that. You can kind of take a little bit of that green color and kind of go around, make a little bit of some like this. And then watercolor, you can of course do some splashing. You can carefully go up closer to the petals of your flower. But I would let the flower petals dry first. If you're going to paint close to the flower petals like we're doing right now, let them dry first. Let the petals of this iris flower, let that dry first. Then you can work your colors up close. But I'm going to take some chances here and maybe do that. Of course, you can add some straight color out of your palette like that. But you will notice as you work, and then you at some point will just say, you know what, perfect time to just keep yourself from doing too many more details. So I'll pick up a little more paint, do a little more splashing, maybe a little bit more purple splashing like that. And that is it. I will call that complete. I hope you liked this first card. We're going to do one more, and this is so much fun. And what we'll do is we'll let this dry 100%, and you could also use a blow dryer to speed up the process, which I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off the tape right now, Use the blow dryer and dry this off 100% until it's completely dry. And then we'll peel off the tape, and then we'll finish up this card. And we'll just show you how to kind of basically get your card set up so that you can have some really nice, phrases on your card for your occasional card, whatever it may be. A birthday, a party, a thank you card, holiday cards, whatever it is you want to do. All right, so we'll come right back once this is dry. And again, I'm going to use a blow dryer to speed up the process. I maybe will take 10 minutes with a blow dryer on high heat and just keep blow drying this until the paper flattens out, because right now the paper is kind of buckled. You might be able to see that on camera, but the paper gets buckled when you put a lot of water on it. So if you just use the blow dryer for 5-10 minutes until the paper flattens out again, then you know it's pretty much dry. And then you just touch your paper a little bit and you can tell if it's dry. All right, we'll come right back and get working on peeling off the tape and getting our message on our card. All right, so we had finished the painting. Took a quick break, and so now we'll peel off the tape, and you're really going to see how it kind of all comes together right now with the tape being removed. It's many occasional cards that you might purchase in the store-bought, commercially available, will have this type of a border around it. So that's what we were kind of looking for, is to get that really nice crisp square edge around our rectangle. And that's why I went with the more medium tonal values, or kind of like a medium wash within the rectangle, so that when we peel up that tape you have that nice feeling of like almost like a photograph or a painting being set upon the white background. So that really does work well. Not that we have to do that every time, but it does really work nicely when we put a somewhat medium tonal value of wash around the edges of the tape, like so. Now the next thing we'll do is I'll zoom in my camera just a little bit here, like that. The next thing we could do is, I like to do this, I think it's kind of really good. We just take the ruler and we get the halfway point between the artwork and the bottom of the card, and let's say that's 1 inch. So we say, okay, well, ½ inch. So we'll make a ½ inch dot there. We'll come over here, another ½ inch dot here. Maybe we'll come over here, another ½ inch and a little small dot there. That will be where we draw our lines, so that we have a level line to draw our message on the bottom of the card, whatever that message might be. So then you draw a line there at the halfway point, and then you can also draw another line below or above that line to give yourself like a ledger to fit your lettering in between those two lines. So I went with the halfway point and then another line below the halfway point, like that. And then all you would do is just script or print in there your message, whatever it might be. Happy birthday, it might be a holiday, it might be a thank you card, thank you very much, feel better, whatever it is. You just use first. I would do it in pencil first, your message in light, very light pencil, because sometimes you know how if you try to write something, sometimes you run out of room to get the writing within a certain space. So that's where, you know, if you start out with really light pencil and create your message first, very light pencil, then you can say, all right, I got to erase a little bit of that and kind of shrink and make the letters a little smaller to get my message in there on the bottom. And then once you have it with light pencil, and you can even, for that, even, you know, you can always too is take another piece of paper like this and go right underneath it, and then just kind of see if your message will fit. So you could say, all right, if your message will fit in the, and it does, it fits in this area, so then you know you're good. You can leave your letters this big, let's say. So you can do that like a practice run first on some paper. And that's all you would do. And then if you want to, you can go into the interior of the card. You can maybe, I like to, when I sometimes do when I create my occasional cards, I like to sometimes put like maybe a photograph over here and double stick tape it on this side, or maybe I'll tape in like a little bit of money. Maybe if it's like a birthday gift, and I'll just put in like a, maybe like a $20 bill with some tape on there, and tape in a little bit of money, some cash, or like an Amazon gift card. And then over on this side, I would do the same thing. If you want to do the quick message you might have in your card, it can be very simple, maybe only a couple lines. But you would just, however many lines you need inside your card, you just do that. Maybe a small line up here to start with, dear so-and-so. And then, you would just maybe draw out evenly spaced lines. So you might just make a line every quarter inch, let's say, or every half inch, however you want to make the spacing. But that's up to you. So you can get yourself, situated really nicely with just using a simple ruler and making space divisions for your pencil lines inside your card, just like we did on the front of the card here, where you measure and you get your spacings of your light pencil lines. And then you can take your pencil and maybe do your very light message first, make sure everything's spelled correctly, and then once that's good, then you can go over that with like a nice pen or Sharpie marker. You have your Sharpie markers and pens. You can do anything like this, the thick markers, the fine point Sharpie markers like that. You have a lot of creativity in that, putting your message in and what kind of pen or pencil you use, maybe some crayons, whatever it is you might want to do. You can be as creative as you like. But that's really the real basics of it, of making an occasional card. So I hope that was real easy and clear to understand. We'll do one more. Okay, and this way we have it really rock solid in our minds how we're going to create a few occasional cards. And again, you can make these, you can make these ahead of time. You can make like, whatever. You can make a dozen of these ahead of time with different, pictures, whatever you like to paint. Maybe you like to paint flowers a little more, or maybe you like to paint city scenes or, landscapes or, whatever, portraits or figure painting or ink paintings, whatever you like to put on your cards. You create your occasional cards, you leave them, without any writing on them, and then you can fill them out as you need them for whatever occasion you might find. You might pick a card where someone might really like flowers, and you can take one of your 4 or 5 cards with flowers on it, and they're going to like that, and you'll make your card out and say, this is the message, whatever message it is, and you put a little bit of writing in here, and you have a really nice card. Okay, let's get started with another one. So what I'll do is I'll come back, we'll set up, maybe I'll set it up off camera so you don't have to sit, maybe I'll do it on camera so we can kind of watch the process again with the tape of the taping of the card and everything. Okay, so I'll be right back. All right, let's get started with our next card. I'll zoom back out again. Okay, and then we'll have our photograph. Maybe we'll put our photograph up here. This will be a beautiful seascape with some sand dunes and the ocean, nice sky. We'll take our cards, so we're going to do the same thing again. We have a paper, and we said our paper was about 5 by 8 inches. I can just double check this here just to kind of see. That's about 9 actually, so this is 9 by 6. So this is a 9 by, the other was a little bit smaller. This is a 9 by 6 paper. And again, you can make them any size you want. And then you can take it and you just fold it in half like that. And then what I like to do is take it, kind of get it to this point here where I'm not creasing it yet. I want to sort of make sure it lines up pretty much even on the edges, like so. And once I get it even, like this way and this way, then I pinch it really tight with my hand when it's even. And then I press down and hold really tight on this end of the card, this way, the open side of the card, and you just fold it like that, and then you have it. And then you have your card, and this one's going to be we'll do this in landscape format, which will be like so. Okay, and that's the kind of like part 1. And then part 2 is we'll move this out of the way for a second here. We'll get our tape, and we'll just do the same thing we did before. I won't be too neat about it. Again, we're trying to do this expeditiously. Maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit, like that. Okay, better. And then again, the bottom is going to be quite a bit of tape covering the bottom. We want to have plenty of room for our message on the bottom of the card. And you could change around the message too and put it up top if you want. So you would just kind of do the same thing. Leave more white space, free space up top. And you can see there about, this tape I think is about 1.25 inches. Let's see here what this tape is on the width. Yeah, this is 1.5 inch tape. So this tape is 1.5 inches wide. And they make all kinds of tape, different widths and stuff. You can have two different type of tapes, like this and this. And you could use like the wider tape for the bottom, and then the thinner tape. And they make even thinner tape than this. Something similar to this that you could use for the top and the sides. So you can get creative with your tape too. But I'll just do that quick taping. And this tape's pretty strong, so when I go to tear it, it doesn't tear easy, which that means it's really good quality. So and then I kind of just, I look at the tape, I can see through the tape to the white paper, and that's how I gauge the amount of coverage on the edges of the you could also put a pencil line around the edges of your paper first, and then tape your tape to those edges of your pencil line. So you could do it that way too if you have a hard time. Does that make sense? You know, you could do this. You could use your pencil, a light pencil line, first on your paper all the way around like this first, and then take your tape and line it up on that pencil line and put your tape down that way. I've been doing this a long time. I've been taping my paintings and my compositions for years and years and years, so I kind of just have a knack for it, and I can do it really fast. But if you need to, you know, maybe do it a little differently to give yourself a better chance of getting it more accurate so that it looks like your edges are kind of more even, then so be it. You can do your pencil lines first with your ruler. And you can use, again, a T-square ruler is your best way to go. That tends to really work well. The T-square ruler, especially if your paper is cut perfectly square, but that doesn't always happen either. So you have to kind of just work with what you have. And you can also make your tape uneven. You can kind of make it more creative, let's say, where you don't have to have your tape always perfectly level. You know, you can take your tape and change the angles of it too for sort of a creative idea, or a more creative look to it, something a little different. But anyway, we got our tape on now. We're all set. We'll take a quick break. We'll get our pencil ready, and we will do our sketch of our beautiful beach scene here. So we're going to bring that down into the frame like that. All right, so we're going to draw this in next with pencil, just a quick pencil. We're going to do our rendition of seeing a beautiful beach scene like this, and ocean and sky. We're not going to try to like get every little detail in there. We probably would have to take hours and hours and hours to do that. We're making a occasional card. We're keeping it kind of quick, easy, fun, just to get the general idea of what we're seeing here, and we'll show you how we're going to do that next, okay? So we'll be right back. All right, so I'm looking at this picture, and I noticed that's about the ocean, horizon line of the ocean, the distant ocean, is about halfway on the paper. So you can, I would say I would either go a little bit lower than half, or you could make the sky kind of smaller and have more of the beach and the ocean in the painting. So that's up to you, but I wouldn't go halfway like this necessarily. I think it does look a little better, a little lower, your ocean horizon line. So I'll take my ruler. I have a smaller ruler here I use a lot of times. I might measure this first quick and say, what is this? The space between the top and the bottom, 3 inches. So if it's 3 inches from top to bottom, 1.5 inches is my halfway point, so I could put a little pencil mark there. So I want to go a little lower than that, so maybe I'll go down 1/4 inch. So I'll go 1/4 of an inch down from the halfway point, and that's all. And then I can make the same line over here. We'll say that's actually an inch, and then it's an inch over here. Make a hash mark there. Then we just line our ruler up on both of those hash marks, and we go across. We get our pencil line. That'll be our ocean line, and then the sky will be up above. And then what we'll do is we'll look here and kind of see that the fencing over here and over here is pretty much hugging the right side over here of the painting. So we're going to do this. We're just going to go like that, and then we're going to go like this, and we can kind of see it goes like this. So I just wanted to get that light pencil line across there and like that. Okay, so that's our fences, and you can kind of put some lines there just to remember that we're doing some fencing. And like that. And then I would say over here, we'll just put some pencil lines for our sand dunes with the weeds and the grasses and things and rocks here and there. So we're not going to get too detailed with this, just indications of what we're looking to put in the scene. And then over here there's some more grasses and weeds over here, a little more detail closer to us, and as it gets further away, less detail. And then we could do two things. If we could take this and make this smaller, the fence smaller here, so we have more of our ocean in here. So I'll do that, and this will be our ocean here. And then I'll just so that's our ocean. All right, perfect. We have our sketch in, and that's about all we need right now. That's enough information. The next thing I would do is I would just take a little bit of tape to start out with before we'll take another break in a couple seconds. I'll go across the ocean here with a tape to get a nice straight line with my ocean, my distant ocean horizon line. So I'll just take the tape, and I'll just kind of make sure the tape is pretty snug to the paper, tight to the paper across here. I noticed this tape is not holding too well. This tape is probably, I've had this for 2 or 3 years now, so it kind of loses some of its tackiness after a while, the tape. So what I'll do is I'll take my new tape, and then this way I know this is going to stick really well, and no watercolor paint is going to leak underneath it. So when I'll do that, I'll take it and just make sure I kind of, snug it down to the paper. A couple passes like that. Perfect. All right. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll get some ocean horizon line going here. And then from there, I think we're really going to have a fun time doing the rest of the painting, because the rest of the painting is going to kind of go pretty quickly and pretty easily. Okay, so we'll be right back. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, hey, if you're having a great time and you're learning a lot on this video, I hope you're going to subscribe. Feel free to subscribe. It's the button down below on the right-hand side of the video. And this way you don't lose track of us. You'll see all of our updates each time you open up YouTube. You'll just see a small little notification on your YouTube channel when you open up your YouTube application the next time, and it'll just say, oh, Chris made a new video. So you'll just be aware of my new videos that come out, and we're making videos 1 or 2 a week. Usually on the weekends we make them. So just so you keep in contact with us, and you can keep learning and growing in watercolor, and we're going to have a fun time continuing on. So again, we'll be right back. All right, I think we're going to get started now with the painting, and I think we're We might need a little bit of some water, so I might take the spritzer bottle again with fresh, clean water inside that spritzer bottle, and I'm just going to give one quick spritz to, and I'll also spritz my palette a little bit, and I'll just clean the paint that we have on here. I'll just quickly lift up what's in there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'll get the majority of it like that. Okay, now I'm just going to look at that and say, you know what, I'm going to kind of get the same look that we see there in the... So I'll bring over my water container, sponge, maybe I'll just use the paper. Sometimes I'll just use a tissue in my left hand like this, and then rinse my brush off and then tap a little bit of water off on the... But you can use paper towels, tissues, napkins, sponges. And let's get a nice blue here. This looks good, a little bit of this. So these two blues here, this is kind of like a darker navy blue or a French ultramarine blue. This one here is kind of like a cerulean blue or like a kind of a turquoisey blue. You can even pick up a little bit of this green, which is sort of like, again, a turquoise type of green here. And then we'd want to add maybe just a little bit of orange to neutralize some of the blue. So you can just take a little bit of orange and kind of just put it into the paint a little bit like that. You wouldn't want to mix it all around too much. Just a little touch of the other colors to add a little bit of neutralizing the blue a little bit. And then all we have to do here is just really paint right over the top of the tape. Maybe I'll move this up here like so we have more room like this to paint. I'll leave a little bit of white paper for some waves coming in like that, and we'll pretend the waves are coming in a little bit close to the fence and the beach sand here. You can go in and get a little more blue and maybe make it a little darker. A little bit of green, and maybe put a little bit of darker paint right along the tape edge, and then maybe a couple little bits there, here and there, like that. Gives it a little bit of nice variation, like that. Okay, that looks really good. Now we're just going to leave that like that. We want to let that dry 100% before we pull up the tape. So another thing we can do is get our golden sand color. Let's take some yellow and a little bit of orange. So yellow, a little bit of orange, maybe a little touch of brown, and that looks like a good sand color. And we'll just take that, take the side of the brush and just do some, like this, scrub on with the side of your brush, like that. Rinse off the brush, take off a little bit of water, pick up a little more of that sand color, and just gently go over the paper. Now this works really well. Like you see that kind of like light white paper and then your sand color. If you have rough paper, that's really when you will get that effect. So you have to have rough paper, which is always, usually when you buy watercolor paper it'll always say like smooth or rough or satin finish or rough finish. So for this effect you'd want to use more of a rough paper. I'm using Fabriano paper, Fabriano Studio watercolor. I have that in the link below, so you could check it out on Amazon, but it's a great paper. I use it all the time for my compositions and my paintings, and I think that's good. We'll let this dry now. So this should dry pretty quick. Again, we can use the blow dryer to speed up the process, which I think I will do. And once we do that, then we can come back in and we can paint the fencing and some of the weeds and grasses and things along the sand dunes. Okay, so let's do that next. Let's let this dry either a couple hours, let it dry 100%, or you can use a blow dryer, maybe 10-15 minutes or whatever, you'll be good to go. All right, okay, we'll be right back. All right, we used the blow dryer 10-15 hours, even 5 minutes I think, and that's all I needed here, and it's dry to the touch. I can kind of touch the paper and see it's kind of dry. I peel up my tape for the ocean. Look how good that looks, a perfect ocean horizon line. Perfect. And again, now we're just going to do the sky. Let's create the sky. Perfect way to create your skies is to, well, let's do the fencing first. We'll do the sky last. So we'll take the water, rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then we'll just take some brown, some of the blue, some brown. We want to make a darker dark. So we'll get that blue and brown there and some orange like that. And that looks pretty good. And a little bit of green over here. We're going to use some grasses and things like that, so that might be good for that. All right, so we mix up our paint first, rinse off our brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then we come over here and we get some of that darker color. Then we might want to tap on the tissue a little bit just to take a little bit of the paint off the brush, and we'll start here. And then now it's just some quick, not taking too much time, just get some of those fine hurricane fence in here quick. They get smaller and smaller and barely noticeable in the distance, and they're more thick and more noticeable here in the foreground. So that's all we have to remember. Like that. Okay. And it's just and then a little bit of that green that we're going to make for the plants, but we use that green for a very light. Maybe we just have a little bit of that wire in the lightly across. You wouldn't see the wire though further than that. So we'll just do the wire for the hurricane fence a little bit here and there, but then further in the distance we wouldn't see it. We just have a little more of that like so. Okay, now we take this, again we made that little bit of the green mixed in with our brown and blue, and we're going to take our brush again and get some paint on there, maybe not too much. Let's dry it off a little bit, the brush, and then let's just scrub a little bit of upwards like this. And if you just do those upward, you move your brush around, spin it so you have more paint on there. And if you do those quick upstrokes like this, especially on the rough paper, you're going to get that really nice. And then we can add a little bit of blue, more green, brown. And I'll take my brush and we'll pretend that the winds are going this way. So we'll make some of our weeds and things going like this. And just a little bit of those few weeds going this way really creates that nice feeling of being at the shore where you know those winds are going to be strong along the water. You'll see that. Okay, and there's a few up here like so. And there's a couple more a couple go the other way, but they're mostly going this way like this. Okay, just like that. Perfect. Now we'll do the sky. Again, we'll get in a quick, beautiful sky, rinse off, have fresh, clean water like you see here. Load up your brush with water, and then again, we're going to use the side of our brush and just go across the top of the painting along the tape first. Get the whole top covered really nicely. Remember how we were saying you want to have that watercolor and wash, your washes of blue for the sky, you're going to want to have it solid and really good on the top portion of your painting, so that when you lift up the tape you're going to see that nice crisp blue sky wash across the top. Then as you go down lower, don't put the water everywhere, kind of skip around, leave some white paper here and there, some dry paper. Okay, and then as you go down lower, a little bit less water, and then I wouldn't paint any clear water close to the water. Leave the paper dry along the water. So I hope I make that really clear. You can use more water up here on the top along the tape, and then as you go across here, you can really just skip around a little bit. You don't have to have water everywhere. And then as you get close to the water down here, does this make sense? We took a lot of time and effort to get that beautiful crisp ocean line with that tape, so we definitely don't want to put clear water next to that beautiful crisp ocean line that we created there. We want to leave that dry paper as a buffer between the wet paper we put up top here for the sky, okay? That's all you have to really worry about. If you can do that, you're going to have so much success with this. Okay, now we'll get some of that blue, and I mixed in a little bit of that greenish gray too. But this is a nice blue sky. And as you can see, now I let the watercolor paper do the work. I'm just basically gently taking with the side of my brush and just moving it ever so gently on the top of the paper like that. Just that, like that, across. And then if you see something that doesn't look great, no problem, get some water on the brush and kind of smooth that out. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. If you want to, you can take a little bit of that sand color and put that along the bottom here. Very carefully though, use a little bit of that sand color, but don't touch the ocean yet. Then once you're really you have some of that sand color in the sky, but you still left that buffer zone of dry paper along there, then you can take the very, very tip of your brush like this and then carefully just work it up close to the water, but I still wouldn't, I'd leave that a little space between the water and the sky because it's going to look okay. You don't have to go right up to the ocean. And there you have it. Does that not look fantastic? And it only took us 10-15 minutes to make this. Okay, and then you can add a few figures in there if you want to, walking. That's fine too, but again, we're going to keep this video quick, so we're not going to get in involved in too much details. Let's just keep it real simple. Beautiful ocean, some sand color, a hurricane fence with some grasses and weeds, and then our sky wash that we didn't overwork. We let the water do all the work for us. Okay, let's do this. Let's move our things out of the way here, and we can lift off the tape now because basically everything's already starting to dry. We didn't put a ton of water anywhere on our paper, but you could always let this dry for like an hour. So I think the best thing to do is I would let once you finish your painting, I would let it dry for an hour before you lift off your tape. But I'm looking at everything here in my studio, and I know already that I can lift off the tape, but it's better off if you're maybe new at creating these occasional cards and using tape. Again, I'm not sure. I know I have some of my old pros, my favorite fellow watercolor artists that are painting this scene and these cards too with us here. But I know some of you are new at this, so I want to make sure I give you the best info I can on this so that you don't, and this is always good too if you can peel the tape off like this. But having really good tape helps too. That's why I always would say if you can get this exact tape, it's called Frog Tape Advanced. If you can get this or painter's tape, they also have frog tape. The purple color works really good too, the purple. But you know, like when I used to use other tapes, it would tear my watercolor paper, and that's a real problem if you go and you work so hard to get a beautiful occasional card like this completed, and then when you go to take off your tape and it rips your paper up to shreds, you're going to be upset. I was upset too when that happened to me, and that's why I always buy that good frog tape. You can't go wrong with it's a professional grade tape that house painters and commercial painters use to paint around trim and glass and windows and things like that. They put it on first and then they paint and then they peel it off. So it's great for artist work too. Alright, I hope you had a great time, and again, we could just go over it one more time kind of simply. If you're going to make your message on the bottom here on your card for whatever occasion is, you can just basically measure the distance. 1 inch actually is the distance between the painting and the bottom of the card. So I take my pencil and I say, okay, 1/2 inch here, that's the halfway point. Over here, same thing, a small dot, halfway point. Then I take my ruler, go across, have both dots with the ruler lined up like that on the dots just right. Up there, a little bit more, right there, perfect. Then I go across here with a super light pencil line, and then you can, again, you can make a double line, so you can kind of make sure you're not going up on an angle or down on an angle. But if you were to even to go with the halfway line and then do your message on top of that line, that works too, especially if you're good, if you have really good handwriting skills and good penmanship, then you might not need to put the double line, but I usually create a double line for myself so that I don't go off the beaten track with my writing. So I go with a second line like this, and another line again up there at the halfway point that we did those dots, right? So now you have two lines, and you write right in between those two lines. And then again, we talked about, if you want to, you can just take a piece of scrap paper like this, and then kind of just write out your message and see if it fits, and just, you know, will this fit in the card? And then you can see, will this fit in the card? Works perfect. It fits there, and then you can line it up and center it, and then you can even just draw right in and just kind of make sure you're keeping with the same writing you did in the bottom. And then once you do it in pencil, you do it in magic marker over the top of it when it looks just right and everything's spelled correctly as you like to have it. And then once you're done with that and it dries, then you just lift up your tape, lift up your pencil lines like that with a nice kneaded eraser like this, a nice and kneaded eraser, and you'll see that you'll have perfect message along the bottom of your card. Pencil lines, you can just erase them off the card so that no one will see them, and you'll see how fantastic that is. And then you have your card, perfect. And then you can open it up, of course, and you'll maybe tape in a little bit of money in there if it's a gift or something like that, or maybe you have like a keepsake you can put there, tape on there, double stick tape, or glue something on in here. Or, you know, you could just do another little small message in here, like a little quote or something, a quote on the top of this. But you got to be careful, you don't want to have anything affect your painting on this side of the card. So sometimes it's better just to leave this side of the card with nothing, because it could be that you'll ruin your painting on the front of your card if you put something on this side. So I would tend to say, you know, if you put something with tape, like if you taped in a $5 bill or something like that with tape like this, that won't affect your painting. But if you put like hot glue, or you put something like, you know, Elmer's glue or some kind of crazy glue or some kind of construction adhesive, that could leak through your paper and ruin the painting we just created. So I would say be very careful about putting anything behind your painting on your card. And then you can just, again, you can do the same thing on this side of the card here. You can take your card and put your lines on with your pencil, as many as you need for your message. And you can do the same thing too. Again, you can create your message on a piece of paper that's about roughly the same size, and then you'll kind of know what you're going to have to do as far as how close your lines are going to have to be, or how much space you'll need between your lines. If you're going to make a longer message, maybe, you know, you can add the lines and make them closer together. And if you only have a few sentences, well, then maybe you're just going to put the lines, space them wider. Like if you're going to have a card that's only going to have, let's say, 3 or 4 lines, you might just have 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that across. If you're going to have maybe quite a bit of lines and sentences, you might go with your lines closer together like this. And you can do that with your ruler, evenly space them. You can always take your ruler and make your spacing over on the sides, and then you maybe make your spacing like every 1/4 inch. So 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 inch spacing gives you very, 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 very close spacing for your pencil lines, for your penmanship and your message. And then if you want them, maybe you can go with 1/2 inch lines if you're just going to have a few, you know, just a simple quote or a few bits of message. You know, you'll have wider spacing. But that's really that's everything for these cards. We had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming by and working with me we had a great time with this, and again, I'm hoping that you'll thumbs up if you like this type of content with the occasional cards. I will absolutely make more, and again, I do have other occasional card videos in my archives, so all you have to do is type in Chris Petri occasional cards, and you'll see I have quite a few also in my archives on YouTube. All right, so we're going to see you soon, and happy painting, everybody.